we're holding a diamond and you're holding gold, but they're both tarnished by the people who left a scar on us, right? I had a woman call me from the immigration office in Arusha at the Kenyan border, and she was saying, this man wants like $700 from me or something like that. And that broke my heart hearing that, because obviously I can't do anything about it. But on another hand, this is an elderly woman. Right. I said, man, is this country really treating our people like that? Right. And I had such a positive experience in that country. Learned that I walked down a street in my neighborhood, Uncle Mark, I'm uncle to everybody. I got 10 mamas on the same street. Everybody cooks for you. You can go into anybody's house. That's the life I lived in Tanzania at first. That's what I became Mark Meets Africa for.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya and this is the Repat podcast. We do have a special guest on today's episode. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm Mark with Mark Meets Africa. Glad to be here again.
Okay. Wait, Mark, you're welcome.
Thank you.
O'Shea Duke Jackson. I'm sporting my daily wrap-up crew t-shirt. My favorite podcast out of Brooklyn, New York, I believe. Check them out. Daily Wrap-Up Crew. Get your merchandise today.
Okay. O'Shea did share this video with us. And guess where it's from? It's from Mark Meets Africa on YouTube. And guess who's here?
Mark Meets Africa.
Mark Meets Africa. So let's watch this video and react to it.
When a person becomes negative after coming to Africa, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt now because I experienced it. I say Africa will put a mirror in front of you and say, do you like what you see? And if the answer is no, change it. Be the person you want to be. Because again, you will see yourself when you come here. I sure did. And though I didn't see myself in a way that was super bad, at least not compared to other people, I saw a more negative side of myself. And it was not someone I wanted to be. Angry and upset and always having something negative to say about a place that hurt me. And it was because that was the only way I could vent. If I told somebody in Tanzania, they would say, this is my country, even though they complain about the same stuff, I'd say, what the heck? So there was no venting mechanism. So some of us go to YouTube and we vent. We say, no, this is terrible. Or we'll do it in very subtle ways. Don't come here because, this will happen to you because it happened to us or something similar. And so I'd say, give us some slack, y'all. Again, I don't know everything he stands for, so take my words with a grain of salt. But I will say, he's a good guy to me so far. So far, I haven't had an issue, so I'm happy. Seems like a decent guy. I think a lot of us are pretty decent people off camera. But yeah, I definitely know the struggle of being in Africa and going to different places and seeing similar mentalities. And I think him and a few other people.
Yeah, Mark Meets Africa. What do you have to say? What was the context for people who are just watching this? Like, could you give us the brief on how you came about making this video, why you made this video?
Right.
Yeah. It was early in the morning. I think it was the day I got here or the next day.
Yeah, I think it was like when I came back from Nairobi, you were here before me. Yeah, I think it was that morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I was up. It was like 2-something in the morning, maybe 3. And I couldn't sleep, so I made that video because it was on my mind. I don't remember if I had saw either a comment or maybe a message or something. But that's what I felt like saying, and that's what I said. And it's the truth.
And basically, in make a long story short, I make this my ranting station about the real truths that happen here. So people have seen my attitude change from when I first came till now. And they believe like, okay, with the Repat podcast is a little bit about it. A lot of it is complaining and venting about your issues. But you make a really great point in that is that, your attitude, it starts off positive being here. And then as time goes on, the honeymoon phase is over. And you can become quite negative being here in Africa as an African American. How does that happen? How does that transition occur?
It depends on who you are.
Okay.
But I'd say typically and I'm only speaking from what I noticed,
Yes.
right? Everybody has their own unique experience. I'm noticing that people come and they're so excited to get to a new place
Yes.
that they end up being, in a way, expecting something, right? We always say don't come with expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advice all of us YouTubers and content creators and repats, as we call ourselves sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advice we always give is don't have any expectations when you come here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard not to as a Black person. You know, even if we throw away all our expectations, we still have them when we get here. And so when we get here and we start experiencing negative situations, a bit of a rude awakening
Mm-hmm.
in some regards, we feel it times 10 because we expected it to be something that it isn't.
Like, can you give me an example of what some people you feel could expect it to be?
Some people expect it to be the solution to their problems.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people coming to Africa are coming, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. They're coming because they didn't like where they were.
Okay.
And so when you come to Africa with that mentality, and then you see that the issues in Africa are just as bad, if not in some ways worse,
Mm-hmm.
than where you came from that you know you didn't like, you start to feel some type of way.
Okay. Feel some kind of way like what?
People get hurt. A lot of our people get hurt because we do take things to heart. It's one thing our people are well known for.
Okay.
We take a lot of things personally.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not personal. Some of the issues we have, white people have them too.
Okay.
The overcharging, the cheating, the lying.
Yeah. You mean in Africa?
In Africa.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we take it personal.
Right.
Some of us have never traveled before,
Right.
which makes it extra special when it happens to us.
Okay.
Because the first time we're traveling is for that big move. It's not like, oh, I've been to Puerto Rico or somewhere before.
Poland, like I was
Poland.
living before I came here.
I said
Yeah.
this about Austin as well. He asked me what I thought the difference between him and most people coming over was. And what I told him is that he traveled before. So the culture shock and the, some of the more negative aspects did not affect him as much.
Yes.
When we get here and some of people are 50 years old and they've never traveled.
Never traveled.
So they're especially susceptible to having their heart broken.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually they're pretty reasonable people. And then they come to a place where some things make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, I'm trying to love on you and you're not trying to reciprocate.
Look
So
at
that's the expectation. It's
Yes.
an unspoken expectation that we can't help but have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not one that we can just leave in America.
Yeah.
Because as a Black person who did not experience that cultural love
Yes.
in the States or in Europe or in the UK or wherever you come from, when you come to Africa and you experience that, even just a taste of it, you want more. And most people will experience it in the airport and then for the first few weeks, maybe even the first few months. But the moment you get that first negative situation, it's a punch in the stomach.
Okay.
It's a slap in the face. It's a kick in the throat.
Okay. Let me ask you this because, when I first came here, and obviously I had never lived, I was visiting, and there's a difference between, coming here visiting. And last year, I think was the longest stint I had stayed besides 2020. 2020, I stayed here for 11 months, but I was mostly inside because of the lockdown. So then I came earlier this year. I stayed last year, actually. I stayed from January to April because we had a death. And then I came back last July. And then I've been here for 13 months, 14 months full time. My perception of this place has changed. And some of the enthusiasm that I had before has changed before I came. And I believe that's also happened with you too, to a certain extent, right? What has changed and how you looked at it before and then what it is now, the reality?
For me, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say for me, I'm in a similar boat as you.
Yes.
At one point, and when I first came to Tanzania, I was so happy about being in a new place. And I will back up and give some background. I didn't leave America because I hated America. I left because something told me to go.
Okay.
I had no enemies, no issues, no problems that I could really speak to.
Okay.
I didn't leave America because of police brutality or because of, any of those reasons.
Yes.
I knew they existed. I knew there were issues, and I knew they were something that eventually I'd like to help solve.
Yes.
And we all have a part to do.
Right.
I left because something told me to go to Africa. I went and I had the best time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Tanzania was the first for a lot of things. First time being out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
First time experiencing a very interesting family bond. You know, you go to Africa, you get family, you get friends,
Yes,
you get
yes.
a culture that feels like you can be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the States, I wasn't into Black culture. If I'm being honest with you, I have family that's like that. I never looked at them and said, I'm inspired by this.
Okay.
Never in my life. And it's not that I looked down on them or looked, because I have family that's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I, you know, didn't have that sense of community in America, as
Right.
a lot of us don't.
Right. Very true.
And especially a lot of the older folk, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're not into that.
Right.
The ones coming over here, at least, they didn't leave the hood.
Mm.
They were living in decent neighborhoods.
Yes.
They were working a decent job, some of them, if not
Or retired, yeah.
Yeah. And so they left as decent people with a really mellow outlook on things.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them weren't leaving because of direct police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
because they were targeted or because something racist happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
They left because they knew there was a possibility for a community outside of where they were, where they could live cheaper and be, you know, I guess you could say, a part of something bigger.
Right.
And so that's why some of them left. Me, just to get to the question, I was kind of like in that boat, funny enough. I left, got the taste, loved it. I walked down the neighborhood street where I used to live. I lived in a ghetto when I went to Tanzania. I picked up on the language real quick because nobody spoke English. And so I picked up on that language and I learned it. And, you know, it takes a lot of dedication to learn a language. People to this day ask me, how did you learn Swahili? And I don't think about it. It didn't seem hard because I enjoyed it. When I enjoyed being in Tanzania, learning the language was this easy.
Mm-hmm.
It was that easy. I don't look back and say, how did I figure it out? No, it was easy because I loved what I was doing. I loved who I was around. I loved the place that I went to. Over time, when I started seeing a difference in how the country was treating me, and then some of the people coming, the brothers and sisters, elderly people coming over here, single mothers, and I started hearing some of the issues they were having, the place that I loved, Tanzania, started looking a little terrible to me. I said, no way, you can't be doing this to someone. I had a woman call me from the immigration office in Arusha at the Kenyan border, and she was saying, this man wants like $700 from me or something like that. And that broke my heart hearing that, because obviously I can't do anything about it. But on another hand, this is an elderly woman.
Right.
I said, man, you know, is this country really treating our people like that?
Right.
And I had such a positive experience in that country. Learned that I walked down a street in my neighborhood. Uncle Mark, I'm uncle to everybody. I got 10 mamas on the same street. You know, everybody cooks for you. You can go into anybody's house. That's the life I lived in Tanzania at first. That's what I became Mark Meets Africa for. That's how the people know me. The ones who have been watching from the beginning know, oh, Mark, he's the guy that went and lived with the people, became a part of their culture. To this day, those Tanzanians think I'm one of them. To this day. And it's hard for me to convince them I'm not. Maybe now it's a little easier, but that's what I got. When you have that, it's like you're in a really solid relationship with someone, and then something happens and you break up, you can become very bitter and hateful towards that person.
Yeah.
As most people know, it happens a lot with marriage. People will be married, in love, crazy for each other. Something happens in that relationships where that bond breaks.
Right.
And love turns into hatred because you need one to appreciate the other.
Right.
So if you can love a person, you can hate them. If you can love a place, you can hate it. And I loved Tanzania. And now, or at one point, I absolutely hated it because of what they did and because of what they were doing. And I thought it was unfair. I said, this isn't right. I'm out of that now. I've moved past that. But there was a time where I felt very negatively about Tanzania. Very, because I gave my heart to that place. When you give your heart to someone or something and they spit it out, how do you feel? Not so good.
Yeah.
And so that's how I felt. That's how most people feel when they come and something happens that breaks their heart. It's a heartbreak. It may not be with a person, but you can get your heart broken by a place.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I'd like to say the way to get around that is have no expectations. But again, you can't not come with expectations as a Black person. It's just not possible. Not even for someone like me. And I'm not saying I'm special in any way, but I think I can separate emotion from logic. For me, that's never been that difficult. And so even I got into a point where I said, this just isn't right. I had a mission to do something for my people, for these people, for those people, and help bring us together, do my part. And that happened. And I said, man, is it worth it? Still is. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
You said something about holding a mirror to yourself and you found out that you were the negative person. Did I get that right?
I'm sorry.
You said when you held the mirror, you saw in the mirror that you were the negative person.
Yeah. If I'm being honest with you, behind that mirror, there were negative people. Those are the people that hurt me. But in the mirror, there was a negative person. I had the choice and I had to say, do I want to be one of them?
Right.
Do I want to go ahead and join the thing that's hurting me? Do I want to become the thing that hurt me?
Yeah.
I could have chose to be a jacked up, negative, messed up, hurt person. And I said, you know what? I don't like screaming at taxi drivers or getting angry over small things because, and for rightful reasons. I wasn't just flipping out for no reason. I'd be yelling principle. You don't steal because, I was the guy that's like, oh, don't you know if you cheat me this time, you may not get a customer next time. Eventually you won't have any customers. I was that guy who would try to, sit down and talk and talk and talk and talk. That's how I was raised. When I got in trouble, before I got the whooping, I got a 3-hour conversation. So I did that to them. Subconsciously, I guess that's how it works, right? You do what you're used to. Yeah. And so I was always doing that. And then eventually I said, forget it. But I had to look in that mirror and say, do I want to be that? And I said, no, I don't want to be angry all the time and have hatred in my heart because that stuff is heavy. Yeah. I like to be a happy person. I've been a happy person my whole life. Happy, full of love, and peaceful. And that's how I want to be. So I have to choose to be that. I have to choose that when this person gets in my face and lies to me about the price, I can choose to get upset or I can choose to keep my peace. Because my peace, if it was a person, would not be worth that person. My peace is worth more than this argument. My love, my joy, my peace, they're worth more than these arguments that we sometimes find ourselves in.
Yeah. I want to add to that because, I'm such a very straightforward, brash person, offensive at times. I mean, it could get really bad, right? But I want to say this, this place, and I'm in Uganda. I don't really know what my life would be like had I not come here. I think that I was the perfect place, perfect timing, and then also having the perfect mindset. And I think that with us, there are many things that can go wrong, especially in Africa. There's a lot of, being apathetic towards your issues, and you can take a lot of things personal. But again, let me just say this, because people always ask me, like, I think you made this case too. Like, you're lucky because you have such a great staff. I think you said that before off camera, right? Everybody says that. And I'm like, that's true, but the mindset I think that maybe that we have towards the culture of the business is what has garnered so much collaboration and people wanting to support us because of our mentality towards who we interact with. And that is a personal decision. Of course, I have my days where I'm bitchy and things like that. But, I think this place is just like anywhere else. If you want to be a positive, good person and you really want to do things, of course, you might not get the same love you want. You might feel like you're going to get in America, but people can appreciate you. People can help you. People will help you. People have helped you. Maybe not to the point where you think it is, but, you can thrive here and do very well with the right attitude. And I don't want anybody to take it for granted. Like, yes, you're going to do a lot of growing here. And a lot of things you're going to find out that you're really immature about is going to be exposed. I get exposed almost every week. And I have to be like, damn, like, I already got to check myself. You know what I mean? maybe that wasn't the right way to do it. And it's a lot of self-reflection. I felt like being on this journey for a lot of people, you think that your way of doing things is right. You're going to find out that your way of doing things for you to stay here it's not going to work. An American style system doesn't work here. And I think just having the right attitude, it really matters wherever you go. Like, people will support you if you're a great person. It may take some time for people to recognize, what you deal. And you'll deal with some people that will lie and middlemen and things like that. But I think your assessment of having the right attitude has really made us what we have. I mean, as a business, and that's because we do have, for the most part, and I have my bitchy days for sure. But on average, I try to have a positive attitude. And a lot of blacks, you come here with a positive attitude, you get demoralized. And then once you get there in a place like this, you can forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to pick yourself up from being demoralized because something happened to you and you can't blame okay, all those guys are crooks. All those business people are crooks. No, you have to still come back in. You know what I mean? You don't want to be toxic. You become toxic.
Yeah.
What about you, Joan? I mean, how's my toxicity increase? Is it getting better?
Stop. Putting me in the spotlight. No, I can, just like Mark said, you can't just judge people on camera. Can you do that? Well, of course, you being on camera, like us being on camera, of course, someone watching has already made that judgment and they've already jumped to a conclusion like they would. But I do feel that some people are a bit harsh in their judgment. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're judging from a glass house because if you look within yourself, I don't think I don't think whoever is judging is the most perfect person. Mm-hmm. And you can find that they project, sometimes the comments can be evil. The Kanganda comments can definitely get evil. So I don't know. But with O'Shea, I think he's a great person, guys. He's a great boss, a great employer. He's just overall great. Just that, sometimes he's a bit, hard-headed. Can I say hard-headed? No, I can't say that. I take
a lot.
He's just like sometimes he may come on too strong, but it's up to you to, you can either learn from it or you can just get pissed about it. Because sometimes when you're trying to get a point across, the delivery may not be the best, but the point is there. So you can either get in your feelings or get in your bags. You just have to decide, where do you want to go? Do you want to, start feeling a certain way about it, or do you want to actually find out why is he saying this and what can I learn from this, or did I actually do something and what can I get from this?
Let me just say this too. Like, I noticed that for most Americans, especially Black Americans, we're notorious for being like very fucking straightforward. Like, as a group, like,
that's the word. Instead of hard-headed, straightforward.
You're very like cut and dry and to the point.
No cushion.
Yeah, and we sort of really don't deal with. It's more or less our culture than anybody else in the Black world. I think Caribbeans too can be that, but they're not as brash as us historically. Like Nigerians, not like African Americans. There's nobody that as just because you cannot find there's not many people. There are many people I know that are like me in the African American community. There are probably some Nigerians too. But us, this is just our grandmas like that. I mean, look at Medea. Medea is very straightforward, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a bunch of characters, preachers, grandmas that are like that. That's just how we are. We're just straight to the point. And I think that what happens in Africa is it's not so straight to the point. It's a lot of smiling when you don't want to smile.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, I don't like this person, but let me take a picture with them and, things like that. So when we come here, let me just finish this point. When we come here and something is wrong, we want to tell you why it's wrong. Mm-hmm. And instead of the person understanding what the point is to that, they don't want to hear it. And then usually they take a lot of offense to it. And then that person may be wanting to become an enemy. And it makes it hard to work with people like that. And I found that out here. So when I know that about me, and most of you guys know that, then you need to put yourself in a position where you can do a lot of the stuff by yourself and then get a staff that comes into your level of execution and productivity. Because your thoughts and processes are not going to be welcome, and then you're going to end up being frustrated as this place is never going to change. And then there you go, you're down, and like Reverend Leo Daniels had a very great sermon back in Houston in the 70s called "Down in the Dumps." You know, at the New Jerusalem Baptist Church, it was a hit on Jewel Records. Down in the dumps, and you get down in the dumps because you start living the level of frustration. So how do I overcome that frustration? So okay, let me get some people who are like-minded that either they work for me or they can work with me, and then we will try to mitigate this without including those who don't want to change how the current system is, because people benefit how it is. And sometimes if you're here doing business or here doing stuff, you can't have anybody stymieing you what you're doing. So in order for you to not stymie, I will just leave you out as much as I can. It's not personal. It's just this has to be done in this way at this level to be great for what we're trying to do. And then I think that at that point, you cannot have that level of frustration as much. You start to enjoy it more. But once you're working with people who can't be criticized, or go back to America, or those things, it's like, well, fuck you back. You know what I mean? That's your attitude towards them, and they won't tell you that, but that's going to be their attitude towards you. You know, then you won't grow. They'll stop you from growing. All of that. But if you can just get out of that level of down in the dumps because of this, if I can mitigate those things to do it myself, knowing that I'm coming here, I'm not going to be able to work with this group as much as I think I need to, then it's easier to have, because you got to have some level of expectations. If you come here not expecting anything, you're going to go back. You need to have an incentive to come here and do well at something. But in what order? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think I was just going to add to the point when you were describing the way issues are handled in Africa, and maybe it's not so direct. I think it's particularly East Africa. It's very specific to East Africa.
You think so?
Though it's everywhere, I believe it's because of that British system that was implemented here. Because when you were talking about, oh, I'm going to smile and take a picture with you anyway, I said, who does that sound like? It sounds like white folk. That sounds like what a lot of different races in the world do. In the Korean culture, they do that. I don't like you, but I'm going to pretend I like you. One thing I can say I love about my people is they won't do that.
No.
If I don't like you, I don't like you.
Right.
And if I pretend, you're still going to know because I'm terrible at pretending.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about my people. One thing I love about African people is even though I don't like you, I can still work with you.
Yeah.
So there's some
Smile
middle
with
ground
you.
to be had. On one hand, the Africans can get stuff done with people they don't like. On another hand, we're pretty honest when we don't like you.
Oh, yeah.
So when we do find someone that we click with and it works, it's a bond for life.
Yeah.
Or it's a bond that's going to work well in that business.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now it's a personal relationship. So I think both of us have something to offer one another. The British system that was imposed on you guys, and that's what it was, imposed. It was forced.
Yeah.
That system is still here. That's why you see the tea in the morning and all that stuff. But that has some effects.
What do people have for breakfast?
I've never had tea in the morning. Never. That was something I started doing here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Never in my life have I had tea for breakfast.
Yeah. So
But I mean, that's British. And that system with the behavior and how they teach you guys in school, they still hit students in school.
Oh my God, they did.
And in fact, they'll lie about it and say they don't, but they do that.
They
you go
still
to these
do.
neighborhoods and the kids will say, they got a mad expression. What's wrong? Today I got beat too much in school. Too much? What do you mean? That's the system. It's still 100 years behind. That's what they did in the States at one point. They were, what is it, corporal punishment or something.
Corporal punishment.
And they do that here. So that British system of you have to have your nails prim and your hair has to be a certain length.
You have to trim your hair,
It's not militant.
Tucking.
It's just elegant,
Socks
or
at certain
it's
level.
really proper.
Yeah.
And they call that sophisticated. And it's not necessarily African. So in a way, that system was forced on y'all.
Yeah.
We have issues because certain things were forced on us. If we as African Americans or Afro ancestral diaspora and Africans could come together, undo some of the programming that isn't good for us and keep the good that is, we both have two halves of one whole.
Yeah.
But it's like we both are we're holding a diamond and you're holding gold, but they're both tarnished by the people who left a scar on us, right? If we could just polish
that
that.
is beautiful.
Well, I say Africa's a gold mine. It's just covered in a bunch of shit.
Okay.
And it's that's what they left. A system that broke us.
Yeah.
And if we could figure out how to undo the scars they left, then we could figure out how to come together. Our people need healing.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, that's why we get a little bit frustrated with Africans. They won't admit the problems. They won't admit the problems. I get frustrated with my people because we won't stop complaining about the problems. So we both have something that isn't working. We both have a part of the solution. And if we could just see eye to eye, which is funny enough because the system was designed so we don't see eye to eye. You guys are anti-aggression and we are for aggression. So we don't fit together.
Yeah.
And it was done like that so we could never join together. But the people who are doing that, who did that, are the ones who get treated the best here. Because guess what? They operate on the system you now follow. So now they're anti-aggression. So they come here and you say, these people are sophisticated. Yes, we know their history, but they're not killers anymore. They're not murderers. They're not slave owners anymore. So you forget that history and you see their current behavior and say, look, they're acting proper. We come, we're loud, we're belligerent, we're angry, we have aggression. So you see us and you say, these people are uncivilized. I've heard that exact term from a government official in Tanzania. He said, you Black Americans are uncivilized. And in my head, I knew he was speaking his truth. But on another hand, I said, you know what? But the people you call civilized are only civilized by their standard that you are following.
Yeah.
That honest truth does not exist.
Yeah.
I had a brother in Zanzibar tell me, I don't know how he figured this out. He said, you know, white people, first he was saying he wishes he could go to Netherlands. It's funny, they like Netherlands. And then he said, but I don't think white people really love us. And I said, what do you mean, brother? He says, you know, they smile, they take pictures with us, but then when we try to message them later, they don't respond. And to them, that's big. To us, it's like, that's to be expected. But to Africans, deep personal relationships are a big thing. So they take those things extremely seriously. If I don't answer the phone, they'll call back 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
like, why
9.
didn't you pick
I had
up?
somebody, who was a young person, call me. I think it was over 10 times in a row. I think it was 14 times in a row. And I'm like, huh. And then somebody was explaining to me, oh yeah, they worry deeply about each other. So one thing I do love about Africa and Africans is they have a very emotional, attached way of dealing with each other. You know, they're very emotionally in tune with one another. That I think is pretty cool. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, just
deep family structure.
Yeah, deep family structure. Just to add on what you're saying about the British way of doing things, I think it's when we're colonized, they also brought in this thing of love your neighbor. So most East Africans have this whole love your neighbor as you love yourself. Like they have this whole, oh, you'll hit me and I'll turn the other cheek, or no matter what you do, you know, like I'll still be around you. That's why they have this whole, I feel like it's like a pushover type of thing. You know, it's like you can do what you want to them and say, like, okay, it's fine. Yes, what are you saying? You know, it's like, okay, it's, you know, they have that whole, that's the one thing when I feel like an enemy you can't see is a very dangerous enemy because Africans will laugh, well, not Africans, East Africans or Ugandans to be exact, will laugh in your face the whole time they really don't like you, but they'll put up with you just because. So you can't know who actually likes you and who doesn't. And that in itself is dangerous. But I see where it's coming from because we've been brought up to love everyone around us. You can't just show someone like, if you're in a gathering and then you say, oh my God, I don't like this person. Everyone be like, oh my God, what do you mean you don't like this person? It's like, oh my, work it out or something like that. Like never talk about it.
Yeah,
so I kind of see, pretend it doesn't exist. So like sweep everything under the rug. Like don't talk about it. Don't discuss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let's wrap this one up. What are your last remarks?
Yeah. So like, I'm still dealing with that whole mentality of sweeping things under the rug because it's just not how the way that I do things, and it's not the way that I'm ever gonna do things here. I think I've been, you know, sort of successful in the way that I like to do things, which is being more transparent about it and openly talking about it and trying to make the change myself. But again, that is a problem. But still, that shouldn't discount your experience of coming here or doing things. There are a lot of great people here. There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of ability to heal, find out about yourself. There are incredible people here. There's immense amount of opportunities here. It's more than you can ever count, especially right now. And so I would say just know that you're going to have those days, those times where you're really in the dumps. You really, you're going to get let down. You might start thinking about like, okay, everybody is like that. But still, like even Dr. Ronald Neal, I don't want to say this, but he came, second day he came, brought him here. He flew here actually. He's outside, somebody takes his phone. Not even here for 24 hours. Because just imagine like how a person feels like that. So anyways, but still, have a positive attitude.
Yeah.
It can always work out. You do need some help here and there, but I think that, it's I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love my experience here. I have my days, but you keep fighting, right? So.
Yeah. Mark, what's your last remark?
I guess to the African brothers and sisters watching this, because at the end of the day, we're still one people. We're cousins at minimum. Know your enemy.
Oh.
Just because somebody is angry seeming doesn't make them your enemy.
Yeah.
Because a snake needs to be close to you to strike. And you wouldn't go and let something that seemed crazy and obnoxious near you. But you would let that quiet, polite, nice thing around you. And that's why it's going to strike you.
Yeah.
Know your enemy. It's not African Americans, nor is it the ancestral diaspora. We are not your enemy. We're not even close to. In fact, we're too honest to be your enemy.
It's like in the Bible, the lady who cut off the strong man's hair.
Samson and Delilah.
Yep. She was close to him.
Is that Wambald? Somebody?
But that's the thing. She had to be very close
to him. Yeah.
So let that sit in, I'll say. And I don't want to say much because I'm not too big on the political sphere of things. I don't like being too controversial in that regard. I hope you get what I'm trying to say.
Get it?
The person who's friendliest to you doesn't make them your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're quiet and polite to you does not make them your friend. Just because they smile at you and take pictures with you and go on tours with you does not make them your friend. The people who are your friends, the people who truly are your people, are the ones who want to come, deal with all the problems they experience, genuinely get frustrated at what they see because they know that they expect more from their people.
Yeah.
Those are your friends. It's like a parent with a child. When your child does wrong, you have to punish them. Is the parent going to look at the child and say, because you punished me, you're my enemy? Or are they going to humble themselves and say, I believe there was a lesson to be learned? And I'm not saying Africans need to humble themselves and learn a lesson.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that there is definitely something going on in which we can't seem to see eye to eye. And I think a lot of it is very intentional because the people benefiting from Africa are the same people that put Africa in the position it's in.
Right.
Oh.
And so if you really, really consider it, I'll say one thing, the Chinese will remember an enemy for up to 500 years.
Yeah. Polish people too. And guys, we're not trying to say that African Americans are the parent or, I know people are going to take because it could be either or.
Yeah.
Because the thing is we tend to be both kind of hostile when we start talking about these problems. But the reality is this. There are some things that need to change in the diaspora, some things that need to change here. That's why we do this podcast. We're trying to get more clarity and more understanding because you can't talk about the things that really go on here. It's kind of swept underneath the rug and you don't get any development.
Yeah.
And I promise you, I am here to try to change that shit. That's exactly what I be doing. I'm like, we need to get straight to the point, hit it where it's at, because if we can't grow. We can't increase anything. We can't create communities. We can't create value. If we don't know what the issues are, how can you get better? You'll just be having a few people at the top, and then we won't get anything developed in Africa, in the diaspora. We have like I said, Africa free trade agreements coming. We got a wealthy diaspora. We have a wealthy continent, and then we can't do anything because we can't even have a conversation about what our experiences are. I've been asked, like before I go, and Jolie's been there, hey, you guys should do something to bring the African-American community to Uganda.
Yeah.
But then with not being able to criticize how it's going to happen, how can that happen?
Yeah.
Which is why I don't do tours here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to even start that because we don't have the support from the people, even if it's Ugandan diaspora, to make things in a transition to what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So because they don't want to hear it. So
Can I?
Yeah. Thank
Can
you.
I expand on that?
yeah,
Just,
go ahead.
Just
So
my
that's
flow.
one.
To his point, I really like that. I say, I don't normally curse,
Oh, don't
but I'm
curse.
going to for this.
Just
Yeah.
spell it out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
But I say a tree doesn't grow in the dark, and that truth is a light. And just like you were saying, we need to have these discussions in order to grow.
Yeah.
And then every tree needs a little bit of SHIT to grow.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say. I'm happy though. At the end of the day, he and I are still here.
Yeah.
The ones who truly love Africa will stay. When there's problems, they say, don't throw
In
the
the end,
baby
we'll
out
see. Yeah.
with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to clean it up and go from there.
Pour it out. Thank you so much, Mark. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Mark Meets Africa, y'all. And I got a website. Yeah, I remember this time. AfricanMerge.com.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
O'Shea?
O'Shea Duke Jackson, YouTube, at O'Shea Duke on Instagram.
Yeah.
Don't message me though.
Yeah. But you can message us. You can send us an email at timkenganda@gmail.com. You can also follow us on all our social media pages at Kenganda Nation. We'll see you guys next time.